This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Hello, Judge, you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, excellent. We all be is the honor to have on the one and only, the truly beyond category, the Honorable Judge Joe Brown, giving you the word about what you need to hear right now in this time, the spirit of the time, the zeitgeist. How you doing today, sir?
All right, brother. Young man, I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm doing better than most, man. I'm blessed. I can't complain, but I just got to get your take on this. 'Cause I know your phone line's probably been clogged up with the news, unless you have been in a coma for the last 48 hours about what happened to Mr. Cosby. He was given a sentence of 3 to 10 years in prison, in state prison, for whatever. I don't know what he was given the term for. It wasn't for rape. But I'd like to get your take on it, Judge Brown, because you've been very vocal about this Cosby case for a while.
Well, it's like this. From a lawyer's standpoint, from a former criminal court judge's standpoint, I saw a lot of error in what went on, error, in what went on in this case. Its inception bothered me. There are Fifth Amendment problems in there, Sixth Amendment problems, loss of control of the courtroom, jury contact with outside influences having something to do potentially with the outcome. And the bottom line on it is that #MeToo is bragging about their influence on what happened inside the courtroom. We as a people are very much disserved when what happens in the outside world has something to do with what happens inside a courtroom. That's a lynch mob type situation. Now, what works one way works another way. And to be candid, I have to go to this situation down in Texas with the young man being shot by the female cop inside his own apartment. The woman having claimed she entered the wrong apartment. Now, we are screaming for blood in that. But frankly, we need to let everybody know that we are watching, because the people, the officials involved are voted in or voted out of the offices that provide them with the wherewithal to pay their bills, car notes, pay the mortgages, and put something in the bank for the kids to go to college. But we don't want to self-create another mob thing and influence what goes on inside the courtroom any further than just we're paying attention, let justice be done as justice may decide. Now, we should also be inspired to demand that we be allowed to participate in this system, since it's not really the rules that are the problem, it's the people that inhabit the system and apply the rules that are the problem. It's like having a bad umpire and a very partisan crowd and very partisan officials. The home team will have a great advantage. But we need to make sure we don't exercise any excuses to get off of jury duty. We pay attention to who's running for judge and DA, and we don't vote just because, vote for somebody just because their picture and name is on a sample ballot. Somebody who got paid to put them on that sample ballot is trying to hand out to you on election day. If we have the time to worry about basketball, what somebody's percentage from the floor is, football, baseball, hockey, or whatever it is, we've got time to pay attention to who decides our lives. Because you see, you may not think it's important, but what happens if somebody breaks into your home or your apartment? You didn't expect that. That just came out of the clear blue. And you find yourself in a situation. Well, nothing you could have done could have prepared you for the circumstance that you are now stuck right in the middle of the system. And if you didn't pay any attention to what that system was about, what it was doing, and who composed it, then it's too late. You're stuck with what you get. So it has an impact that we have ignored. But I will say that I saw some things professionally that I thought were wrong. And I will read you a quote from a profound commentator. She's white and she's an actress, but I think she has the absolute right of this. She said, and I'm quoting from her tweets, she said, "I thank you, but I tell you, I hate rapists. I've been raped. There is a big difference from being a poon hound and a rapist. I don't think the public is aware of how invisible enemies work." And she said, there is a big difference between women who just use sex as a device to get them a position that they wanted to advance on the job, and those who are actually forcibly raped. She said they're not the same. That's a caution. And I think people need to keep that in mind. That's one of the best statements I've seen around. There's a difference between a poon hound and a rapist. Now, I'm somewhat astonished. The judge let in this trial testimony about quaaludes. There was no proof at all that there were any quaaludes involved. Quaaludes are a Schedule II drug. They can do things to you if you get enough of them in you. And that is not a good thing. But after letting in that testimony and that evidence, there was no proof, as I said, that there were any quaaludes involved. There was Benadryl, according to the proof. Now, I'm looking at a big bottle of Benadryl. I just walked into my kitchen because I was thinking about it, to take 2 or 3 for allergies. So I'm going to take 3 or 4 of these things because my allergies affect me very badly. And I bought it over the counter. It's in a big, big bottle. But she claims she got one of these pills and she got reduced to a state where she was unable to resist. I don't buy that. That is absolutely ridiculous. That's preposterous, and it does not match reality. And then called him on Valentine's Day to go over there 19 times afterwards. What kind of hustle are you running? And then there's the thing that nobody mentions. You look at the before pictures of her and the after pictures of her. You see a feminine-looking woman in the first, the younger editions, and then you see a hard, mannish-looking somebody in the second, before the after. You've got somebody that may not be, but looks awful like a lesbian. Now, the point of that is that there is a big problem out there about women who are bisexual who have sex with a man and then they switch from being somewhat bi to being mostly, if not all, lesbian. And then all of a sudden, all of those things they did with men, it might have been consensual, might have been self-advancing, to use sex as an exchange, become horrible things that bother them. So if they claim it was done against their will, then it becomes a matter of, it's not my fault. And they can look in the mirror and say, you didn't do that. He made you do that. Men are dogs anyway. See, there is a problem with that. Now, I will say candidly, rape is one of the worst crimes there is. I think it's second only to someone being a pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the things that they're pressing to make rape right now are just absolutely ridiculous. Like there's a group of the feminist type on the East Coast that wants to expand the definition of rape to include rape by seduction. In other words, if you've got a girlfriend or a lady friend and you take her out to dinner, a good dinner with wine, and she doesn't get drunk, just perhaps mellow, and maybe there's a play or a movie or something, or you go for a walk in the park holding hands, and it gets to the matter of your place or mine, and something happens and everything was cool, that's supposed to be rape because she was seduced and her erotic impulses were aroused by the actions of the man. So they want to make that rape. They say that it can only be consensual sex, according to this theory, if in this instance you said, we're going out tonight, do you mind if we get real mellow and I seduce you and we have sex afterwards? Okay, then that makes it all right to go out and go do that. And then when you get ready to, you say, now I seduced you, I got your resistance down, you're getting hot and bothered and you want to do something, but are you sure you would do this if you were just stoned in the middle of the light of day and all of this didn't happen? And then when you get into it, you're supposed to say, can I keep going? And then when it gets time to close, can I finish? Which gets outside of human nature. They also want to add warnings to literature, CDs, DVDs, and movies and motion and television production that says, warning, the contents may be sexually arousing to young females. Which is, somebody in here in this thing has lost track of the human equation. You know, look at all the people around the world. There's 7-some billion people on the planet. And there wouldn't be if humanity had not set up a way for male and female to run through a courtship ritual. And when it gets run through, nature takes its course, but they object to that. That is not a good thing. That is not good for criminal defendants. That's not good for real victims of assaults and rapes. And I know the difference when I see them or hear about them. I've represented many clients charged with it. I've represented in counsel with many victims. I've presided over many cases involving such accusations. I've seen how they work out. I have seen a situation where detectives called me up and said, one of your clients, we know is your client, you know, has been accused of rape. Can you bring him down? So I get him, we go down there, we're sitting fortuitously under a clock, literally on the wall in the bureau. But we can't talk to the detective, who I happen to know personally. because there's a big mess going on down there, and all of these detectives are running around. So I checked in, told him we were here. He invited us to have a seat, and we were there for about an hour. So the phone kept ringing on his desk. Nobody picked it up until the detective came by, picked it up, and said, "Look, we're busy." He said, "Well, okay." He said, "Wait a minute. What? What?" He looked up and looked over at me, looked at my client. Then he put his arm up and waved the detective that we were there to see over. And he handed the phone. He said, "You better take this one." So the detective took it and walked over to us. He said, "You can take your client and go home now." I said, "What happened?" That was a supposed victim. She just called up to say that he supposedly just ran out of the building 5 minutes ago after raping her for 15 minutes. And you guys been sitting here for an hour and a half, and I've been looking at you.
Mm. Wow.
See, that would have been a real mess. And another situation. State objected to this one. This guy was jogging down the street, exercising, and this woman runs down the street screeching. She's running in the middle of the street, jumping up and down, pointing at him and screeching, and she flags down the police. And she says, that's him, that's the one that raped me, blah, blah, blah. So they arrest him. They're going to trial. His lawyer isn't doing a great job. And a relative came in. It was kind of all procedure. But the relative had got something together that his private attorney hadn't done. And it was proof that at the time this alleged rape occurred, he was not in the city, he wasn't in the county, wasn't in the state, wasn't in the country. He was sitting in the turret of an M60 tank at the Fulda Gap in Germany in the middle of winter. So obviously there was some mistake. Tank was checked out to him, evidence from his superior officers, and he wasn't on A.L.L, and his orders were to report to Germany, which he did. Got transported over there by C-41, 141. He landed, and several weeks later they were doing exercises in these military vehicles. So they can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's the way the justice system now works. There are appeals, and I think that if they don't take a dive on the appeals, Mr. Cosby may have something else going on in his future than going to jail. Now, here's another thing, too.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, rape is a very, very bad offense. But too often in the system, and that's why the system is kind of cynical about it, what you have is entirely too many instances of, what do you want? Well, I want to recant my statement. Well, what did you say? That he raped me. He didn't rape me, but he told me he was going to pay my rent. So when he didn't pay my rent, I said I was going to fix him. You see, that kind of stuff is not good for the system. It's not good for victims. It's not good for defendants. And what I saw in this picture was another instance of an elected judge wanting to keep his seat because he found the income and circumstances comfortable. The DA wants to keep his position for the same reason. and probably because he has higher ambition. And this is what is most troubling to me. Constitution says the Bill of Rights says not be required to give evidence against himself. Well, in a civil matter, the defendant can be called as a witness against himself. But you can't when there are multiple pending cases, one civil and one criminal. You have to hold the civil in abeyance. So in this case with Mr. Cosby, the DA's office, and that's important, office, not individual, acting through an individual, says we do not intend to prosecute. At that point, Mr. Cosby is properly instructed to answer the depositions, which he does, and he makes certain admissions. Now, that would be the end of it. She got civil damages and a agreement of confidentiality. That is, she will not disclose anything at that point going further. She breached the agreement, and quite frankly, somebody ought to go approach her on behalf of Mr. Cosby about, repaying the money you got paid. You breached your contract.
Right.
Next thing that happens is you got a DA running on this issue, and the new DA says, well, I tell you what, forget what my predecessor said, we're going to prosecute. And now guess what? There is this incriminating statement against interest that Mr. Cosby has made in the civil matter. So he says, well, he made it, so we're going to use it as part of our case in chief against him. Well, you can't do that because it's not the DA, it's the DA's office. And the person's acting through it. So once the DA's office is granted an immunity to something, then it has to stay. And somebody coming in with political ambition can't change that and get something that would have been improper to seek in one instance and turn right around and say, we're going to use it. So absent that statement of admission of the act, but not the intent to commit rape. In other words, I had sex with the woman. Yes, I gave her a pill to make her feel better because she had some problems with her allergies, and we drank a little wine, but I didn't rape her, and she came back 19 different times. She even called me on Valentine's Day. That just becomes a swearing match. You see, that bothers me.
But Judge, you've been a judge for years.
Yes.
Would you have thrown this case out? Should this case ever made it to trial? Based on what you just said.
I would have suppressed that statement, and I would have given the jury, probably if we had a good defense lawyer, a special instruction about the credibility impairment that occurs by someone making a sworn signed to agreement of confidentiality in return for payment and then doing a double cross on it.
So, like,
and I certainly would not have let someone come in from 49 years ago to talk about a relationship. See, proof of other crimes is appropriate when you have certain things to establish, like identity, mode, manner, and fashion of the crime, access, or something you can't prove otherwise. For example, 3 stores are held up by 3 individuals in a red and white American Motors vehicle. Well, one of the victims can testify as to the identity of one person at robbery A, the first one. Robbery C, the last of the 3, somebody can identify another one. And robbery victim B can't identify, but he can say something about the color of the car. So if they're all found in the car, you can bring in evidence of the crime to put them together. But what they proved in this case by the witnesses that were brought in was proclivity to commit crime. A person may be a career criminal, but you can't bring that up because it's not, are you getting rid of somebody, finally think you caught him and got him, or can you actually prove this case? Now, you can get into it under one condition, and that is if the defendant takes the stand, you can bring this other stuff in after he testifies to destroy his credibility. In this case, Mr. Cosby did not testify, and they let it in without having anybody to impeach. See, there's a profound difference in that. So I looked at that and I just said, well, you know, it's not what it ought to be. And then the woman standing up and screeching in court, you know what you did to me, in front of the jury sitting there, and he doesn't control that, and no cautionary instruction is given to the jury. The girl running around topless with lipstick written on her, the jury was in the jury room and they could see it outside through the window. All of that press that was allowed to surge up into the courthouse, it was just absolutely ridiculous.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, what you thought about the fact that the judge did not inform the jurors of their options before they rendered their verdict?
Well, that's also another grounds. Juries is judges of the law and of the facts. They are to apply the law to the facts as they interpret both. But the judge is the source of the law. And in American jurisprudence, if the judge gives an improper instruction to the jury, or if he fails to give an instruction that's material to the outcome, it doesn't make any difference how long ago the case occurred or it was tried. When that is discovered, that's grounds to reverse the conviction.
Okay, so also the fact, I mean, this whole trial was very unethical. The fact that they unsealed testimony that he gave during the civil trial,
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's where they got the whole statement from.
But he never admitted to rape, right? In the statement, he never said he raped her, right?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
But he admitted to giving her a drug, Benadryl,
which you can buy at the pharmacy, right? It's not an illegal drug.
At the pharmacy.
Right.
So the problem comes in that you can't compel the defendant to give evidence against himself. There was an objection made to that, and properly made in front of the civil court, which was there is potentially a criminal case that might come out of this. Therefore, Mr. Cosby exercises his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Judge says, okay. And then they find out they get a DA's clearance where we're not going to prosecute. Now, that's from the DA, but he's acting for the DA's office. So when the civil judge hears he's not going to prosecute, he says, well, you got to talk because there's no pending civil litigation.
Right.
I mean, no pending criminal litigation.
Mm-hmm.
So he talks, and then the DA that gets elected to replace him turns the office around and says, no, we're not going to honor that. That's after they got it. So they go in and improperly, they get a chance to use the statement that was taken in the understanding that there were no Fifth Amendment problems. Now they're using it. They should have been forbidden from using it. That's what I was talking about.
Well, why did the state Supreme Court, somebody step in and said this is illegal, this is unethical what they're doing? You can't do it.
Because it wasn't timely. It's now timely. See, in other words, part of the thing is somebody in a trial, judges are there to promote justice, okay?
Okay.
You know something went wrong with the trial. You're sitting there saying, is the lawyer going to say something about it? And then when they object or they do say something about it, you say, okay. Now, what happens is you might say, this is a strong point. I think he's got something. But what you might do is instead of just saying, okay, the court will grant a mistrial, what you do is you sit on it, say the court will take that under advisement and will reserve ruling on it. So what you're trying to do here is, okay, let it all go on and go to the jury. If they acquit him, that's hands down the end of the matter. He doesn't have to go through all of this nastiness of an appeal and a year and a half, 2 years later, go through all kinds of stress and heart attack schedules to await what happens on the appellate level. And if he does not get a not guilty verdict, then what happens is you can go ahead and grant the motion for a mistrial. The court, after considering this matter, is of the opinion that it is well taken. Therefore, the court declares a mistrial. Now, the prosecutor and the victim are going to get upset, but sometimes you just have to let them get upset. I remember when something like that happened, and 6 or 7 months later, after a whole bunch of upsets, somebody else confessed to the crime. See, these rules are there for the long run. They cover situations that might not happen but once every 10, 15, 20 years. But most people don't remember anything back 2 years. Or weren't interested anyway until something happened to bring them up in a similar situation. So they don't know about it. You have lawyers and judges that are ignorant like that too, let alone general population situations.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people, man. It's hard for our people. We're very emotional. Like all this is about emotionalism. It's not about logic. It's not about objectivity when it comes to these type of things. Like I hear my friends, some of them are rape victims, and I empathize and I have compassion for friends of mine who were rape victims. But at the same time, how is it like doing it this way is the right way? It's like you say Al Capone's a murderer, but you can't get him on murder. You get him on income tax. You say Bill Cosby is a rapist, but you can't get him on rape. So how is this justice?
Well, yeah. See, and be careful what you ask for.
Mm-hmm.
For example, let's talk about down in Texas. You hear what they're saying down there about what they want done to this female cop, right?
What are they saying? What's the latest?
Oh, not latest. I'm just saying what they have been saying.
Okay, yeah.
Now, let's take some practical considerations. Let's assuming that it goes to trial and there is a conviction for a criminal offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's that give to the family? Nothing. But if there is a civil trial that's successful, they might get money. All right?
Yep. So that's why you have a Ben Crump instead of a Johnny Cochran in that situation. You want a Ben Crump.
Yeah, but remember what happened with O.J. He got found not guilty of the criminal trial, but he got busted in the civil trial because he didn't have the same kind of representation.
Right.
Okay, now, let's take this case.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they acquit her because they can't prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt to a moral certainty, that would be manslaughter. There is ample statement and confession to negligence or recklessness here, which means in a civil trial, win, lose, or draw over the criminal matter, they can get money damages. But okay, that's a consideration. Let's come back further. It's this. See, if it's negligence, and I'm not saying this is going to be the outcome, but it's a consideration. Negligence, that makes it manslaughter. Recklessness, manslaughter.
Mm-hmm.
If it's negligence, that leaves the city of Dallas, Texas in the game. It leaves the police department in the game. If it becomes an intentional killing, that may let them off the hook, except for such things of improper screening, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, what you want to keep is a deep pocket, so don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You screaming for blood right now, and you get what you want, but while we whoopee, you just cut yourself off from maximizing your recoverable damages.
Mm.
Okay, something else that may happen. You keep screaming too loudly down in Texas. And do you remember what happened with the Rodney King situation? The cops on trial for that one, they claimed that they could not get a fair trial in the L.A. County Superior Court District in which the case would have otherwise been heard. So they transferred it out to a place called Simi Valley,
Mm-hmm.
which is, guess what? Mostly populated by retired cops.
Hmm.
So they got acquitted. They had a riot, and then they indicted them on federal charges. And they had a jury that was picked inside Los Angeles, and after the riots and everything, then they got convictions.
That's right.
So be careful what you ask for, you just might get it. And personally, I would suggest that no matter how emotional you are about a situation, as a people, black people don't need to promote a situation that legitimizes mob justice.
Right.
There have been too many instances where we've gotten jacked up. And then there are too many things that we should be looking at, and mad is the devil about it. They've got a $13.8 billion aircraft carrier, a nuclear super carrier. It is 1,100 plus feet long, and it weighs 110,000 tons.
Mm-hmm.
And it's named the John B. Stennis, one of the worst racists in the U.S. Senate, representing Mississippi for years and years. Before that, he was a prosecutor and then a judge. And one of the notorious cases he prosecuted that got overturned by the Supreme Court is he knowingly got 3 black men convicted exclusively off of confessions they supposedly made, but he knew good and well there was something peculiarly wrong about the confessions. You know what that was?
What?
They tied them up on hooks and they literally flogged them.
Wow.
Till their backs were bloody before they could get the confessions.
Wow.
And he used them. So injustice is often excused, and to name a $13.8 billion item paid for by the taxpayers of the United States of America and name it for that racist scoundrel. And the bad part about it is he was still breathing. They have named a nuclear submarine after Jimmy Carter. The justification was that he was the only president who had ever been a submarine commander.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of those really run silent, run deep type, hunt the Red October people.
Mm-hmm.
They named one after George Herbert Walker Bush, a one-term mediocre president. Well, he did preside over things when they had the first Middle Eastern war, which they had sense enough to bail on once they won it rather than going to Baghdad and created a power vacuum.
Which his son ended up doing.
Yeah, but he has one distinction that did perhaps merit it. In World War II, he got shot down flying a torpedo bomber. He almost got captured by the Japanese, but got rescued after some days in the sea. He managed to get to a small rock off of a place called Iwo Jima, not Iwo Jima.
Mm-hmm.
And he was real lucky because the commandant of Iwo Jima was crazy. He liked to take American airmen and cut their livers out and barbecue them and drink sake and have parties.
Mm.
So everybody that was an American airman that they captured that went on that island got liver removed and barbecued.
Wow.
Yeah, really weird. But anyway, he got rescued. But his real distinction was he was the youngest combat pilot in the military in World War II. Army or Navy.
Mm.
So I can understand them naming something after him, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They named the carrier after that scoundrel Ronald Reagan, but, you know, he's at least president.
Mm-hmm.
But he died before they launched it. May he burn in hell if there is a place like that. And then they named John B. Stennis. He wasn't in the Navy. He was a racist, long-term segregationist, an embarrassment to the nation, and they name an aircraft carrier for him. They've got 5,000 sailors on board that ship, and a lot of them are black. And the idea that you're supposed to be on board and loyal to your ship and is named after a racist scoundrel who wanted to keep you down and was against you being in the Navy, being any other thing besides an orderly for some white officers. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody once made a remark about World War II, who was in it, a white officer, young white officer. He said, it's interesting that all of the black men in the Navy, though they made excellent gunners and anti-aircraft activity, they might have a PhD or be a medical doctor who they would not put in the medical corps. Said, but no matter what they had, what their educational level was, they had to be an orderly playing flunky to some little young shave-tailed reserve junior ensign who went to a racist Southern school.
Hmm.
But you see, there are a lot of iniquities in this system. It needs to be corrected. But there is one thing that we as a people need to understand. There is a profound difference between the game when it comes to its rules and its structure and the way it gets played. See, there are rules to cards, but you can do what? You can cheat at cards. So if you want a good, clean card game, you got to have people who are honest card players, and the other people who are honest card players in other games have to watch out for the dishonest card players so there's no cheating going on.
Right.
See, the game is not our problem. It's the dishonest, unprincipled scoundrels who cheat at it.
Mm-hmm.
There is no human system that's been devised at this point that gets around the need for human participation in it. But the American system is probably one of the best. Juries are a vital component of the American system. But the thing about juries is in my experience, having been in front of them or presided over them, I'd say out of every 5 juries, you get 3 that are decent. One of them's okay, and then one jury is just damn stupid. You wonder where they got them from.
Mm.
You question the jury afterwards. You let that happen if the judge orders it, or you are the judge and you order it. And you say, wasn't there reasonable doubt? And the foreman and 8 or 9 jurors say, oh, yeah, there was plenty of reasonable doubt. And somebody said, well, why'd you come back with a guilty verdict? Well, we figured the smart defense lawyers kept us from finding out why the police really arrested them.
Wow.
So we wanted to back up the police and send the message to them that we're their friends.
Wow.
Oh, hell.
That's like a Cosby jury right there. But I got to ask you this. You're talking about, playing by the rules, the game, having honest brokers. What about this, okay? Like, look at the case of Carolyn Bryan Dunham, the lady who accused Emmett Till of disrespecting her and making sexual advances. She came out recently that she lied about that. It was out in the book published by the historian Timothy Tyson from Duke that she confessed to lying about the whole thing. She wrote a memoir that she dedicated. She gave a copy of her memoirs to Duke University. They cannot release it until 2038. But you had witnesses, like you had Emmett Till's great uncle say he heard a woman voice that night, and she was a part of the party that kidnapped Emmett Till from the home and killed him.
Okay. Hold on. I know where you're going.
Okay.
I've read that too.
Yes, sir.
I've even talked to his mother and stepfather.
Okay.
on at least 2 occasions.
Mm.
How old is she?
She's 84 years old.
All right. She's 3 years older than Bill Cosby.
Yes, sir.
There is no statute of limitations in Mississippi on the crime of murder.
Okay.
So why doesn't somebody indict her and prosecute her? She is the inducement to the first-degree murder of Emmett Till. Her husband and another party were acquitted, but that doesn't mean that acquittal applies to her.
Right.
So if she instigated it and she knew about it and she concealed the causality between her prevarication and the murder, she becomes at least an accessory, if not a principal.
Right.
Therefore, she's only 84, 3 years older than Bill Cosby. She caused a horrible death, nothing like just, oh, he got my nookie, and oh, it wasn't my idea. Well, why'd you come back 19 more times? Well, that time, I don't remember because I was drugged. I got a Benadryl capsule. Oh, wow. All right. Well, in this case, it's death, disfigurement, mutilation, a lynching, literally. Bring her back to trial. Remember the situation down here in Mississippi? Medgar Evers got killed.
Yeah, by Adela Beckwith.
How old was Beckwith when they tried him?
He like in his 70s, late 70s.
He's older than that.
Probably early 80s, late 70s, right. He was old.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can go after Cosby for groping, go after them for murder. You got Beckwith. How about the babe who sits there and as Tariq Nasheed says in his Twitter stuff, she's at home clipping coupons.
But I heard something which is interesting that like they say that the governor of Mississippi, Phil Bryant, is her nephew by marriage. Roy Bryant, her husband, that's his nephew. He's the governor of Mississippi right now. So I don't know if that has anything. I mean, he was a little kid when it happened. He was like a little baby. It's not on him. But the fact that his uncle was one of the guys that killed Emmett Till, and he's now the governor of Mississippi, it's like he got protection. Like, yeah. What can you do with that type of, if your nephew-in-law, former nephew-in-law is the governor of Mississippi, I mean, is he really going to do anything against his auntie?
Well, the governor isn't in charge of it.
But they keep on reopening the case, right?
But you know how they reopen a case?
Wow.
There are 2 ways. Police can start independently investigating it, recommend an outcome to the DA's office, who can go in and ask permission to go in front of the grand jury and make their presentation and then get perhaps an indictment against her. Or the grand jury foreman, who is just an ordinary person, grand jury foreman can say, let's look into this, and the grand jury can independently act and subpoena witnesses and decide that they are going to return what they call a presentment, which is the same basically in effect as an indictment. So then you got her there. And the foreman can be any old somebody lives in the neighborhood or anyone. The grand jurors decides to bring it up in one of their sessions. Let's look at this situation. Or somebody can bring it to the attention of the grand jury foreman. And the grand jury foreman stays as a foreman through the whole session of court for several months.
Okay.
But as they look, you might want to look into this.
But they reopened it recently this summer, and then they reopened it back around 2005 where they exhumed his body, the FBI. They got all the evidence that says she pointed them out that night at the house.
That's what I'm saying.
But why would they discharge her ass? I mean, excuse me.
No, what I'm saying is they have to charge her does not require the governor.
Okay. But what's stopping them then? What do you think is stopping them?
Well, you need to go to the DA, or you need to convince the grand jury foreman that he or she should have a presentment proceeding.
Okay.
In other words, if some wrong's going on, the grand jury can jump in it on their own. The grand jury, how do you pick a grand jury? Just like a regular jury. You get called in for jury duty, they qualify you, and we need a grand jury. So they pick 24 names out of the hat. That's the grand jury. Or a little revolving drum.
Mm.
So there's no telling who wind up on a grand jury, but the grand jury can act independently.
But how can people like this is a judge? You practice the law, you understand, you're an expert, you're a veteran. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. Like, how can people equate justice with mob justice, with lynch law? This is nothing but lynch law. I had a did Cosby, he paid $4 million. Why he go to jail? There's a lot of black folks that's broke. They can't even go to trial. They don't got the resources like a Bill Cosby.
Well, see, here's the other thing too. The key is who's playing in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the other bigger key that we get involved in and jack ourselves up is because people don't understand the law and they're low key, low character people with not much, to them. They don't have strong personalities or characters.
Mm-hmm.
And they push for mob justice. Oprah was in there pushing for mob justice down in Dallas.
That's crazy.
Everybody on the black show, black news media, they're sitting there pushing mob justice in Dallas. But a lot of the same people are upset about mob justice in the case with Mr. Cosby.
Right.
See, you can call it #MeToo or Black Lives Matter, and it works out the same way if you're pushing for mob justice. And mob justice is trying to influence what happens on the inside of a court by what's being done outside of it.
So basically, Clarence Darrow, Perry Mason, Johnny Cochran, Thurgood Marshall could not did anything for Cosby in that courtroom.
Oh, they might have.
Okay.
The point is they had an experience level that his counsel don't have.
But Mesrau got Jackson out the last time. The Tom Mesrau, that's his name.
Yeah, but see, here's what your problem is.
Okay.
I sat on the bench and I noticed change. Law is different now. You've got many, many more lawyers than you used to have. And the way law goes, because of certain people who didn't know enough about it but tried to do something with it anyway, either to impress some constituent or some quiet interest behind the throne,
mm-hmm.
is it's gotten entirely too damn complex and there's too much damn paperwork. And too much stuff is busy work. So what happens is, rather than your bar having a broad trial spectrum, you've got situations now where you've got somebody in practice 5 years, and he's had maybe 1 or 2 minor trials in front of a bench, just a judge only.
Mm-hmm.
He's scared to death on his first jury trial loans because he's never had one. When I was coming along, it's possible to work with legal services as a new lawyer. You didn't get paid much, but you got to apprentice and do your internship. To work with the public defender's office, you got paid a bit more, and you got an opportunity to apprentice and do your internship, or with the prosecutor's office and do the same. So by the time you get into private practice, you've got a whole bunch of trials under your belt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the DA they have here, this witch Amy Wyrick with her lesbian self, and I can't stand her because she's a crook. Well, she has been trying to give these women that are in her office, since she's a feminist, a boost up. So what she's been doing is taking unqualified staff who have no experience, putting them in criminal court so they can get trial experience. So when they get out in the real world, they will have, quote, a jump on the men, unquote. And they backlog the criminal courts. They don't deliver justice. Everything's supposed to go to trial. It gets ridiculous. Cases are half prepared. Real victims get neglected, and bogus folk get propped up, and a whole lot of wheels get spun around, and nobody goes anywhere. But see, you get these lawyers who don't have a lot of trial experience. Johnny Cochran was with the L.A. County DA's office when he got out of law school.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he did his experience, and he got a lot of experience. I was the public defender. I had many, many, many trials. So when you walk in a courtroom, you know what's going on, or you quickly know what you need to do to find out what's going on. We've got too many judges now who have gotten themselves appointed to a position and confirmed by an election, who never set foot in that type of courtroom until they got on the bench.
Uh-huh.
It's bad. So you also have in state legislatures the influence of things like the Tea Party,
Mm-hmm.
which basically is a populist movement that glorifies ignorance. And you have too many pieces of legislation introduced because somebody thinks they're going to be tough on crime that are inconsistent with the law, irrational, and poorly drafted. They mean nothing, but they just complicate things, and they sit around mucking up the works until they get declared unconstitutional as acts. It's absolutely stunningly crazy.
It's a madhouse, man.
Exactly, it's a madhouse.
God.
And then you got people coming after you. See, the new thing is that if you can't stop the people, and the people can find lawyers or a voice, then you attack the lawyers or the judges through these state bar committees. And they still come after me for all kinds of nonsense, even though my license is in a medically inactive state. We want another doctor's excuse saying you're still medically inactive, and I'm just about to say, screw you, here's my license. Now you got what you wanted. Be careful what you ask for. You might get it.
Right.
Now you can't control me at all. They don't like me talking about juvenile court. They don't like me giving a candid assessment about some of the people on the bench. I do these advertisements in other states. I don't do them here. They don't like the fact that I profit by doing that. So, there are all kinds of shots coming at you. So I'm personally, I'm 71 years old, and I look at this whole thing. I don't intend to practice law anymore here. Let me give them my license so they can shut up and go do what they want to do. So yeah, I can talk about you. But see, they won't leave you alone. They come after everybody. And that has done a lot to chill some things. See, some people have more balls than others. And you go to lawyers in this town and you got case, you got money, and they tell you they're sorry they can't take the case because it might be disruptive of their careers, or it might produce too much back pressure on them, or there might be, some negative coming out of representing somebody.
Wow.
Yeah, I live in an area where there are a bunch of millionaires. We got some problems over there. We've been through all kinds of changes trying to find a lawyer. No problem with paying. It's just they happen to be scared of certain entities. So, I mean, it's gotten really out of hand. It's bad.
It's kind of like when I found out that you could be the county coroner in places. All you got to have is a high school diploma. You don't have to have a background in science or an advanced degree. So you think that the coroner is some type of scientist or forensics person when a lot of times they don't even have the experience.
Well, we don't have a coroner in Memphis. It has a real function. There is such an office, but the person that actually does that kind of thing is known as the medical examiner.
So an actual person that got a science background.
Yeah, a doctor.
But you go to places like in Mississippi counties where they got folks hanging from trees and they say, oh, it's a suicide. But they don't got no science background like that. They're not a real medical examiner. They're the county coroner.
Right.
And we take that as a gospel. But let's go back to the Cosby. You got a lot of black folks that still mad about Cosby about that 2004 pound cake speech where he said it was okay to shoot a person in the back for stealing pound cake. So people are still upset about that NAACP
Well, it
speech.
depends on what somebody bad enough to break off in your house and steal it. Have you ever been burglarized?
I have my I have relatives like my grandfather home and my aunt.
Yeah, well, you get burglarized and you sit there, you find yourself leaving the door unlocked, sitting there with the lights turned off with a shotgun in your lap. Come on back, but they never do.
Right. And I know you feel like you've been violated, like it's a form of rape in a way to be having somebody come in your home.
I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I've been burglarized. I tried to stay over in the hood 2 places. Got burglarized too much. I said, I'm going to kill somebody at this rate.
Right, so you had to get out. But they knew who you was, though, right? The people knew who you were in the community.
Yeah, and they still did it.
It's always an inside job. It's always somebody that knows about it.
Well, it wasn't even inside. I know what it was. It's like the neighborhood started going down.
Okay.
And I started getting a lot of this, Joe, man, I'm mad, man. So what's wrong, brother? You know, man, you know my wife. Yeah, I know. Man, she got 2 sisters, man. They ain't worth 2 dead flies, man. And they got these little hard-headed boys that they don't know how to raise. So my wife on me about, man, you got to let these little morons come over here so they can live in stay in a nice neighborhood. Man, I knew that wasn't right. So I get them over here. I'm trying to work with them, and I got 3 kids that are well behaved. And then now my kids ain't doing homework right. They getting in trouble. And these little fools come up in here. Man, I had to take a baseball bat, man, the other day. So what happened? Man, this little nephew of hers or mine, I guess, come up in there with some of his little posse talking about they gonna move in and take over.
What?
This is a prime base for operations.
Wow.
You know, lost your mind. So I ran them on out. I said, well, if you need any backup, I'm right down here. Well, I'll call on you, you know. So, I mean, it was like he wasn't even doing it. His kids weren't. But these little thugs that came over there, I went down there to talk to them. Yo, well, look, I don't know who the hell you are, but, you know, like there's lots of stuff to be took over here. I got the posse. We going to ride deep, and we going to sit there and play Robin Hood on somebody up in here.
Well, I was saying about inside job. I wasn't saying like, yeah, that's what I mean by inside job. You do the people they live in the neighborhoods.
Oh yeah, well, you know, yeah, yeah, I got you. I took it the wrong one, but anyway.
The fact that they were bold enough to tell you that's wild.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is crazy, man. But you know, I thought about what you said about the black woman being the first to use the word nigga, and D.L. Hughley, who's from South Central LA or South LA. I saw his stand-up comedy routine recently, and he talked about how his mama used the word nigga a lot on him.
Yeah.
In his stand-up routine. Yeah, like you said.
1960s, you didn't hear that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm black and I'm proud. Black, Afro-American, then black again, then African-American.
Mm-hmm.
See, you didn't hear that. I didn't see you got those low women of ill repute that got left behind. They didn't go to school when they could have and get out of it. They made the conscious decision that they wanted to have babies to get a bigger check from the state.
Right.
And they kept having them, and they had poor character traits, and they were low down, and they would play. The real deal is they are still mentally on a plantation. They're still slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're a slave, you act like one. And one of the characteristics of the slave is routine self-depreciation.
Wow.
Like, I hate the word, but I'll use it in this context. It's like, man, do good, man. Talking about some nigga gonna make it, man. Nigga ought to be have sense enough. No, they ain't gonna let no nigga get no money, man. Who you think he is? Ain't nothing but no ordinary nigga, man. Dude got, man, just cause he got money, man. You know, nigga ain't really got no fucking money, man. He can't make it. One of a white boy make it for him. He fronting off. Just that kind of self-depreciation.
Right.
Or this. You little no good nigga. You just like your dog ass daddy. Sit your little snotty nigga ass down. And you talking to a 4-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Wow, that tells you open up a can of worms. It is what it is. Let it
And
fall
that's
where it's
why
gonna fall.
to this day, man, that's my nigga, man. You know, hey, man, nigga. I mean, I've gone to, you've been to, you live around here.
Right.
You've been to restaurants.
Yeah.
This is the largest, predominantly black city in America. So you've been to restaurants and black folk out in the park. Like, yeah, man, nigga, what's going on, man? I mean, I saw this nigga, man, showing me, motherfucker, nigga, tell that motherfucker. It's like, man, what the hell is wrong with you?
Sometimes it be the people working at the restaurant, like Paula Dean said, they saying it too in the kitchen. They saying it too. They be saying it in the restaurant sometimes. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But you gotta look at the manager too. You look at the management. I say, okay, why you allowing this to happen?
Yeah, like I was in a place, I won't even name it.
Uh-huh.
Man, nigga, please don't be giving up the bullshit, man. Oh, nigga, yeah, let me go jump your shit, man. And this is the people who work there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy. And they got kids a lot of time. Like the cycle continues. This is a generational thing.
Yeah, they call the women bitches.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's nigga. And the men are dogs.
Right. See, this is stuff that Cosby talk about. That is that every time we talk about this stuff, we can't talk about it. No matter how much money you give back and how much you do for the community, if you talk about this stuff out in public, black folks get mad at you.
Yeah, and it's like, excuse me. See, when this stuff first started, the lament was the other way around. Mm-hmm. Why you want to get out and use the N-word in public, man? We've been trying to keep that down, and then you start calling yourself that.
Well, I mean, if you look at, okay, I got to get back to this, ask you about this Cosby thing. I think it's fascinating to me because you know how they said the first time he got in trouble when he tried to buy NBC, the network, and you got New York Times article that talk about how he did try to buy
twice, by the way.
Right, and his son got killed 21 years ago. Then I found out that he was very active and vocal, him and his wife, about Kinder Morgan, the energy giant on the East Coast. They're trying to build a $500 million pipeline through Massachusetts on land that they own. And they were very vocal about that. They was against Kinder Morgan trying to build this natural gas pipeline through their property up in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. Could it be that they try to get this land from? Because as soon as they've been vocal about it, it's when all this stuff started coming back up again about rape allegations.
Well, yeah, see, and again, I know the Hollywood, the whole 9-yard bit, but back in the era when Cosby was getting around,
mm-hmm.
Let's take what the white woman characterized him as a poon hound. That'll make him a racist.
Right, of course not.
What was going on is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Sex, drugs, baseball, basketball, football, stardom, whatever it was, there were groupies.
Right.
And they would come to these parties, and they would be see-through, provocatively dressed. And when they get there, first thing they're doing, they want to go find where the coke is and who got a joint to smoke and, get all the wine they wanted. And then they're half naked, take the tops and don't have a bra on anyway. And, by the time they leave the party, they've given 2 or 3 guys head jobs in the closets or the bathroom.
Oh, man.
Come back over and over again, and then you see them on the cover of Vanity Fair talking about they got raped by somebody or sexually used because they decided they were going to give up some booty in order to get a position.
Yeah, go back to Janice Dickinson, the supermodel who was passed around like a blunt, and then she wanted to recant her story about Cosby. She came out and was one of the most vocal people about Cosby raping her. Then I believe she tried to recant it. It's like what you said earlier about you want to take back what you said about rape, but it's too late now. The damage has been done.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's like you've heard they've got this thing called buyer's remorse.
Right.
Let me see. Buyer's remorse is interesting because it deals with this. It's remorse at having submitted to a seduction or having failed in an attempt to self-promote by sex. It is not legitimate grounds
to recharacterize what happened as rape.
Right.
But you see, you got people like this Gloria Allred and others, and Nancy Grace. They go around trying to convince women that it's not their fault. They really got raped. This man took advantage of them. When actually what was going on is they were just being classic, what do you call it? Gold diggers.
Mm-hmm.
I would call a lot of what they're calling hashtag Me Too is gold diggers remorse.
Wow. That's powerful.
See, that is really, 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 really what we have going on here.
Wow. That's a powerful statement you made, Judge. I mean, everything you're saying is right on the money to me in terms of getting people to think about this. How is it justice when you don't want justice? You want revenge. You know, you not, and you try to be emotional. I mean, like, it's funny. People are losing friends on social media. Family members, I stopped talking to each other over this Cosby thing. And people say, "Oh, the people that support Cosby, you just mesmerized by the fame and his celebrity status and all this." And then the people who are against Cosby, they saying, "Well, because I'm a rape victim, or if y'all for Cosby, that mean y'all for rape." And nobody ain't saying that. Nobody. I think everybody's misunderstanding each other. And we're now allowing each other to really look at the evidence and research, because they didn't get him on anything pertaining to rape. It wasn't rape that he went to jail for. Right? I mean, he didn't admit to rape or anything like that. He admitted to giving the lady some drugs, some over-the-counter, whatever, pharmacy available drugs. But he did not admit to rape. The same thing with Tupac. Tupac didn't go to jail for rape. They found him not guilty of rape. They found him guilty of improper touching. But he's labeled a rapist.
That's battery.
Okay, but I'm saying, but it wasn't rape though. I mean, they did a rape kit on a young lady, and they found out he didn't have any evidence of him entering her, of anything. I mean, she even talked about it years later on Blog TV about the situation. But what I'm saying is, once they put the word rape out there, man, your life is over, man. Once they label you a rapist, your life is over. You could be innocent. Look at the Scottsboro boys. Look at the Central Park Files. There's so many cases. It's not about, I've known people that have been raped. I have relatives that have been raped. You know what I'm saying? Been molested. But I'm saying, how can you get mad at Cosby and you got 1 billion followers of the Roman Catholic Church? Ain't no pope going to jail for molestation. Ain't no archbishop. Ain't no bishop. Ain't no priest. Ain't no nun going to jail for molesting young people or little children. And they got 1 billion followers in the church, and you got evidence of them raping kids.
Boy.
I mean, they got 1 billion members, and people are giving their kids up to these people every year. And you mad at some dude that y'all label America's dead? An actor?
You're right.
But they move priests around like it's witness protection. But then they got look at Baltimore, look at Philadelphia, then look at Pennsylvania, where they were sending kids to jail, the juvenile prison. The judges were on the tape. That was a big scandal. One of the kids ended up committing suicide. You know what I'm talking about, Judge? That little scandal they had up in Pennsylvania with the judge. Yeah. So I'm saying, how can you get justice in a place like that? There's no place. Like Richard Pryor said, there ain't no justice, just us.
See, what is happening is you are too young to realize this.
Mm-hmm.
But at one point, everything you heard to school, to the movies, to television, to books, to the home place, was telling you to be rational, logical, reasonable, and analytical.
Mm-hmm.
And then that hippie thing came out in the 60s, and they go, oh, man, like, wow, man, it's like about getting high, man. Wow, oh, man, you got to let it hang out, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey. And it's all about, man, how you feel, man. It's feelings, man. It's love, man. make love, not war, man. You know, hey, like what the hell does that have to do with reality? That is not going to pay somebody's rent.
That's right.
But you see, then it started twisting to war is a man thing.
Mm-hmm.
The girls would say, war is a man thing. Uh, Men need to learn how to express themselves, to cry, to shout, to let it all hang out instead of trying to be so uptight and reasonable. If they let their emotions flow, they wouldn't let it build up and have all of these wars. So, since the late 60s, the society has been slowly succumbing to what was small propaganda and is now much larger propaganda, justifying emotionalism at all costs.
Right.
All costs. Why'd you do it? I was emotional. Do you think that makes it okay? Well, I mean, I was emotional. Oh no, you'd go to jail if you'd been successful. Why did you tell him that was wrong? He really, really, or she really, really felt that way. No, that's wrong.
Wow.
Control yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Humans are not mere animals. They can use their brains to overcome their animal instincts. Well, then why the devil are you talking about it's okay to be emotional and not control it?
Mm.
But, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, well, we got to do a turnaround. I mean, it's like when the Reverend Jasper Williams said that a woman can't raise a man, and black folks got upset about that. And Tupac said himself, he said in his own words, I got a lot of feminine energy. I'm paraphrasing Tupac. He said, if I had a man around, I've been more calm down, I've been more disciplined. But his mama, who was the activist, she had to be loud and out there and very, very emotional and passionate about her position because she was in a sexist world. I understand that. But what Tupac was saying, that if he had a masculine energy to balance it out, he would have been more disciplined and calm. And he might still be alive today. So he said it from his own word. But I'm saying people get upset, like, you can't have a difference of opinion. You mad at Cosby. You got black folks out here, they still mad about that 2004 speech. I said, how y'all mad about that? That's his point of view. That's his opinion.
Yeah, but that's why the black church is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're supposed to be going to church, is the preacher telling you you're wrong and you need to change.
Right.
But they don't say it in church anymore. And we've gotten out of the habit of somebody telling us we need correction when we need correction. So when somebody is a political or social figure and he starts saying, you got to change this is wrong, then we start getting, well, man, you know, because they got caught up in a trick bag. And the trick bag is they've been for the last 45, 50 years listening to Hollywood and the entertainment industry glorify their dysfunction.
Mm.
See, kids for the last 100-some years all across the world have been emulating what they see on that big screen,
mm-hmm.
or the little one now. So when you start putting dysfunction on the big screen or the little screen, they emulate dysfunction. And when you keep hearing it hounded to you, and see, now you see it in the movies, on TV, and what the rap is all about, is glorifying dysfunction. See, so you get this, you think that's being hip, being cool, to be a way that is really dysfunctional, that it used to be something to be looked down on.
Mm-hmm.
See, notice the virtues that they try to get people to follow. So is it good for you, or is it just misery loves company, and all of these folk that can't handle what's being talked about and want other people to be like them?
Right. Yeah, I see that on that group think on social media. I mean, you say one thing that's not very popular, people want to shut you down and want to report you, and they want to unfriend you and be angry at you in real life. I'm like, wow. We just having a discussion. Can we just agree to disagree and still be agreeable? I mean, can we be civil about this? And it's hard to have a discussion with people.
It is. But you see, again, too much of this, we're all off in our emotionalism. In other words, the stake is not the what's at stake is not the practical outcome for something. The practical outcome, what's at stake is our emotional well-being. In other words, the country's become emasculated. Remember what they used to say, women are from Venus, men are from Mars?
Yes, sir.
What's the difference? Women are crying, men are trying to find solutions, and the women are mad at the guys for trying to find a solution because they just don't understand how they feel. I don't care about solving the problem. I just want somebody to understand how I feel.
Yeah, a woman told me that several years ago. She said, I don't want you to solve my problem. I said, you told me you have a problem. I'm just trying to help you with a solution. She said, I don't want that. I just want you to listen to me sometimes.
Yeah, that's
just feel me. I was like, what the heck? Okay.
What you're looking at right now is the effeminization of society. That's an effect of it. In other words, if it was masculine dominated like it used to be, this would have no traction. It would get nowhere because it wouldn't be pushed because it's just not to be done. English, I say, oh boy, it just isn't done that way, you know? Not quite cricket. But around here now it's become okay because the feminist thing is sweeping to the fore, which is not good.
Yeah, like recently, like this dude, that was the editor of a college newspaper or magazine, got fired because he said women don't have penises, and they fired him. I said, they don't have penises. If you're a woman, you don't have a penis. It was like, new math and new facts now, I guess. That just is weird.
Absolute truth is a defense to any libel action or a slander action.